Hello, 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 America. We are
Good
here
morning.
on this wonderful day with you all from around the country, bringing to the U.S. and the world American Awakenings, Signs of Life. So good to be with you all. Rolling from spring, I hope, into summer. It's feeling beautiful here in the greater Boston area. It feels like real spring. Finally. I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying a beautiful day. And if not, a beautiful day is going to come for you this upcoming weekend. Today, we have a great show with wonderful music from around the country, once again, courtesy of Dan Hazeltine. But first, we're going to start with our worship leader, Josh Jacob. What are you leading us with in worship today, Josh?
Thank you, John. Kind of feeling this song. We'll see what happens. John Mark Millen. Here we go. There is not a man or a beast, nothing on the land or underneath. Oh, nothing that could ever come between the love you have for me. Oh, I can lay my head in Sheol. Oh, I can make my bed in the bottom of the darkness deep. Oh, but there is not a place I could escape you. Oh, your heart won't stop coming after me. Your heart won't stop coming after me. Your heart won't stop coming after me. There is not an angel of the stars. There is not a devil in the dark. Oh, nothing that can change the way you are, the love you have for me. Oh, I can lay my head in Sheol. I can make my bed in the bottom of the darkness deep. Oh, but there is not a place that could escape you. Your heart won't stop coming after me. Your heart won't stop coming after me. Your heart won't stop coming after me. Whoa. Oh, I can lay my head in Sheol. I can make my bed at the bottom of the darkness deep. Oh, but there is not a place I could escape you. I could lay my head in Sheol. I could make my bed at the bottom of the darkness deep. Oh, but there is not a place I could escape you. Ooh, your heart won't stop coming after me. Your heart won't stop coming after me. Your heart won't stop coming after me. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I prove you more and more. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust Him more.
That's good.
Amen.
I think that you more consistently bring it on John Mark McMillan than anything else. I don't know. That's just an observation I made after watching you in action for a while. What do you think, Josh?
You can't hear John.
Oh,
He doesn't think anything. He doesn't think anything.
He said he
All right.
loves you,
No,
John.
we will let the
Yeah,
record.
Josh, you bring the fire.
We will let the record stand that it is my opinion, and no one has argued with me yet that he brings it more consistently on John Mark McMillan than anything else.
here, here.
All right. Moving forward. A lot of territory to cover today. Some random extra topics. We got Calvin Lee's wonderful new haircut. We've got spam in Hawaii, perhaps, which we may get to on the show, which is wow. There's a lot there on that topic. But first, we're going to bring you the Daily Dose with Pastor Joel Searby.
All right. Hey, everybody. Good to be with you today. And today I want to talk about a rooster. That may seem a little strange, but I was reading in John's account, the book of John in the Bible. I was reading John's account of the story of Peter, who was one of his closest friends, Jesus' closest friends, and how Peter told Jesus, he said, a little bit before Jesus was going to die, he said, Jesus, I would die for you. And Jesus replies, would you, John? All right, would you, Peter? Would you really die for me? And then he tells him that you're going to deny me 3 times before the rooster crows. And then over the course of the next little day or so, Peter indeed denies that he knows Jesus 3 times. And after the 3rd time, it says in John that the rooster crowed immediately. And as I think about that rooster crowing, I think about the sorrow and the pain and the guilt that Peter must have felt when he realized that he had indeed betrayed and denied Jesus. But just a little bit later, after Jesus dies and then is raised from the dead, he appears to the disciples. He appears to Peter on the fishing boat. Peter jumps in the water and swims in, runs into Jesus. He restores him through some conversation. And Peter's life is redeemed in that sense, in the ultimate sense, but also in the sense that he's restored to life with Jesus. And here's where I think the rooster thought comes in. It's not just that there are times when we make mistakes, but there are times when those mistakes live with us for a long time. And can you imagine? I bet for the rest of his life, Peter, whenever he heard a rooster crow, had a certain response, right? Certain emotion. And maybe you have things in your life that every time you hear them, see them, taste them, smell them, you have a certain kind of negative, painful response. But just like Peter, I want to encourage you that Jesus has restored you and is restoring you and will restore you, so that the crow of the rooster no longer is just one of pain, although that may not go away entirely and reminds us of the scars and keeps us humble. But we should be able to move past that and remember that the story did not end with the denial and the rooster, because Jesus restored Peter, reinstates him, and it's just a really beautiful story. So if there's something in your life that's like that rooster that reminds you of your failures, of your pain, of your sorrow, let Jesus redeem that, reinstate you, and change the way you respond to some of those things that may be dragging you down. I hope that's encouraging to you. John, that's your daily dose. Back to you.
Really appreciate that, Joel. Any words from anybody on that?
Good word. Let him do it.
Let him do it. There you go. Hard to argue with that. All right, Jeff Bethke in Hawaii, maybe a little intro on the importance of spam in Hawaii, and then on to something to chew on real.
I mean, you have to, right? So for those watching or listening, wherever you're at, we were having a little debate before we went live here and recorded on spam. And yes, I can't go into it a ton because I got to give you something else to chew on, but don't knock on spam. It's actually phenomenal. If you don't like it, you're not doing it right. You're not making it right. And there's just too much spam slander out there. You know what I mean? Like when you live in Hawaii, spam is a national treasure. And so you cannot, people slander it. And that's just not okay. It's not acceptable. Spam musubi, look it up. It'll change your life. That's basically kids, or keikis as they're called out here in Hawaii. That's our version of, what'd you say?
Break in for just a minute, Jeff. It can't be a national treasure in Hawaii because
true, state treasure.
But it's a treasure. Fair enough. So
here's the thing. It should be a national treasure. It should be a global treasure. It should even be an eternal kingdom, heaven and earth treasure. You can just keep going into the cosmos. It should be a cosmic treasure, right? But it's not.
there are very few immortal and immutable truths, but one of them is that, in your view, spam should be a treasure for all people in all time.
Exactly. Now, let's just be clear. Most times, people don't know what they're doing with spam either, right? So it's like, if you just pull out a piece of chicken and you just put it on the stove and you cook it and you take it off, that's going to be a horrible, bland piece of chicken. The chicken is not at fault. You are at fault for not knowing how to understand what you should have done with that chicken. Woo. Same thing with spam. I know. There's a whole sermon there. Can't get into it. Something to chew on for today. I'll actually keep it short. It's good that what I was going to share was short because I had to go on a spam rant, #spam-rant. But what I want to share with you guys today is about micro or small habits. And I think it actually goes in line with what almost a part 2 of what Joel was saying. Of so many times, a lot of us, we want to change, right? So many of us, we want to change things in our life. We want to change things the way they look in our life. And a lot of us, without realizing it, we look to really big events in our future to help us with that, right? Oh, maybe this one big day or this one big event or this one kind of crossroads I'll get to, maybe I'll change. But if you look at yourself today and you're honest, almost all of us would admit that the person we are, our character, kind of how we treat people, maybe how we work out, how we eat, all of that stuff, really is like a autopilot, mundane thing we do because of what we've done the last 5 years every single day. Meaning we're kind of just formed by our daily ritualistic micro habits, and that's actually the person you become. Another way to put it is you are your micro habits. It's just who you become. And that should be actually encouraging to you, not discouraging, because then what you realize is to change is to just put one foot in front of the other every single day towards the direction you want to go, and it'll have profound compound kind of interest effect. James Clear has some great stuff on this. Atomic Habits is a phenomenal book, but he even does this little like math equation where, if you just try to get 1% better every single day, starting at the number 1, to the 365th power, if you do it every day for a year, you end up being almost 37 times, growth and all these different types of things. But then if you do that in the opposite, you go almost down to 0. You almost, like if you're getting 1% worse every day, then it almost goes down to 0. And he just kind of talks about that, man, all it takes is 1% either direction. You don't need to be double as good as you are today. You don't need to be half as good. Just 1%, right? That means like if you want to get better at how you align your shoes by the door, that means you just barely turn 1. That's 1% better, right? You want to get better at how clean your house is? Take one pillow off the ground, put it on the couch. That's it. You're done. You do that every single day and it changes you and you become a different type of person. And I think everything I just said to end on is highly applicable with spiritual formation. If you want to lean into more of a relationship with Jesus and you want to find that intimacy, that life, you want to be a person of virtue, a person of character, just lean into those things 1% more each and every single day. And you will change and you will look back a year from now and you'll be drastically different. So that's something to chew on for you guys today. And go eat some spam. Go eat some spam.
Love it.
That is fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. And if there's one bit which would be something which consistently synthesizes everything we say all the time, over and over and over again, because it's like the whole truth of the entire universe can be covered in a couple of like sort of simple little buckets that you can be in. One of them is you got the day you're in. Do what you can do today to be a little bit better, and accept God's grace, loving your neighbor a little bit more, and that 1% factor. You are exactly right, is huge, and we get overwhelmed. We get completely overwhelmed by thinking, "Oh, I got to do it a whole lot better," and that just sinks us into the mire. And all of a sudden, we're kind of in the sofa just binge watching something or other because we can't keep up with our own expectations. So
That's so
thank
good.
you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate that. We would go on in this vein and handle spam some more, but for the fact that we have the hat-free Calvin Lee, who is showing up with a magnificent Corona haircut.
That's a look. That's a vibe.
Killer.
GQ coming in hot.
It's a definite vibe.
What people on the show, people who watch this show don't know is that this is actually Calvin. That is the Calvin Lee everybody else knows and loves. It's not it's not the other Calvin. That other Calvin is a guy that was a Corona creature. And I love this one, Max.
We all have our own inner Corona creature that came out.
We do.
Oh, man.
Believe me. I don't want to talk about my inner Corona creature. That's really too painful to go through right now, at least live and on air in front of everybody else. But Calvin, you look wonderful. You're fresh, you're clean, you're coming strong, just like you've been fresh, clean, coming strong every day. And now your haircut's even matching it. So
All right.
that's happening category.
John, I appreciate you. Appreciate you guys all. Again, yeah, fresh haircut. Hopefully bring a little fresh fire today. And what we got some headlines. So first off, everyone, what is going on for you guys in the US and all around the world? We see you. We love you guys. And like every show, just want to bring you a few headlines of what is going on out in the world. All right, so Alabama, North Dakota, South Carolina. These are the first U.S. states that are committing to using Apple and Google's contact tracing tech. So the companies released software on Wednesday that allows public health agencies around the world to build their own apps to track COVID-19 exposure using Bluetooth signals. So 22 other countries, including Ireland, Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands, have also signed on to utilizing the software. So Governor Doug Burgum said in a statement, and I quote, "North Dakota is excited to be among the first states in the nation to utilize the technology to help keep our citizens safe. As we respond to this unprecedented public health emergency, we invite other states to join us in leveraging smartphone technologies to strengthen contact tracing efforts, which are critical to getting communities and economies back up and running." Also, Facebook and Instagram. They rolled out a tool enabling businesses suffering from COVID-19 to create what they're calling Facebook shops. So a business can create a virtual mall essentially for free by uploading its catalog, selecting products, and customizing the shop with a cover image and accent colors. For users, this means that you'll be able to browse and buy products within those apps instead of being redirected to a third-party store. And lastly, restaurants around the country have found a way to reopen at full capacity with outdoor dining. Cities from Tampa to Vegas to Portland, Maine, are opening sidewalks and closing streets to create a large alfresco air dining room. Proposals are being submitted around the country to allow restaurants to spread out to sidewalks, parking lots, and even into the street, as long as they adhere to the safety and sanitation guidelines. Some cities are already expediting permits and waiving fees to quickly help restaurants through what is often a cumbersome and costly process. So there you have it. And in the immortal words of our brother LL Cool J, don't call to come back. Now I'm going to pass it over to our sister Marissa to introduce our discussion topic of the day.
Woo, Calvin, you know what? You had me at LL. I love it. Although I think we're going to call it a comeback today. I mean, everybody loves a comeback story. Who doesn't love a comeback story? And as a global community, we're all just kind of coming together and starting to write ours right now. I found a blog post this morning that I thought was really interesting. It's called 5 Elements of a Successful Comeback Strategy. And again, they had me at 5 elements. I love a number. I can, count on one hand. Anyway, it was written specifically about working out, but the principles are so good that I think they're really applicable to a lot of different kinds of situations, including the one that we find ourselves in now with Corona. So quickly, the 5 elements are: 1, examine your why. In our case now, why do you want to get to the other side of this pandemic? We have all got different reasons. You want to see your kids grow up. You want to live a life you enjoy. You want to help people, live better lives, whatever it is. We've all got our reasons, big or small. Everyone's got a why. Second one, set smart goals. Do you want to eat better because you want to live to see your kids grow up? Do you want to take that trip you've always dreamed about because you want to enjoy your life? Whatever it is. As soon as you set a goal, then you can start to figure out how to get there. So set a goal. Third, consider your options. You can exercise at a gym or you can do it at your house. You can go visit someplace new, by plane, train, automobile, or shoot, right now you can go online. If you don't want to set foot out of your house, you can go visit someplace else. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. So, think about your options. Fourth way, create accountability. Now, we've all needed help to get to where we wanted to go at different points in our lives. We probably need a little help now in whatever area that we'd like to improve in. So, really good people want to help people, achieve their goals. So think about it. Who in your life can you help to ask you to achieve your goal? And the last one, make a future plan, right? Like stuff happens. Life occurs to all of us and nothing ever goes the way it's supposed to. So sometimes when you think ahead, you can try to cut off some things or figure out how you might react to things not going the way you planned. So those were those 5 elements. I think they're helpful. You guys see in the bottom, you can go check it out, the list for yourself. But yeah, a comeback. I was thinking about that this morning and I wanted to ask you guys, as we're all gearing up for this next season and hopefully getting ready to think about our own comebacks, what is a comeback story that has really inspired each of you? And even better than that, somebody else's comeback story, if you've had one that has, transformed your life, or, you remember where you were and now you're not there, you're in a vastly different place. Tell us about your comeback story. What's happened with you and what did you learn from it? And maybe what can you pass on? Guys, where are you at?
Well, I love the topic, and I marvel at Marissa. I marvel at Marissa generally, of course, but I also marvel at Marissa particularly around the ability to bring up issues every day, which somehow are fresh and new over 10 weeks, every single day, coming up with something which is hot and on time, and this one totally is for sure. I don't have any wisdom to offer. I just love the idea of taking the bit which Jeff was talking about before, and applying it, to come back, because I just love that.
Well, I'm going to push back a little, JK, because you do have wisdom on this. You do have wisdom, and I, frankly, I know, sharing, takes a lot, but I think people out there can learn, from even things that maybe seem like they don't really, rise to the level for us. So I'll come back to you.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Oh, okay. Then go.
No. Wait, so it's not wisdom per se. It's just experience. So experience, you guys can all judge. But yeah, it's what we keep saying over and over again, because it is just true. Just keep showing up. Stand up. Think about what the next thing you could do the next minute, 5 minutes, hour, 12 hours, 24 hours. And if you keep doing that, in bad seasons or in good seasons, either way, then you're coming back off of whatever level you're at. Comeback implies that you're at a low spot, right? There's the, all right, you're beat up, you're down, you're low. And as a broader community, arguably we are now, but it's all an issue of what's your baseline you're working off of. And it's either a comeback or it's a come up further or whatever it is. And it's got the same principles, the exact same principles. You just have to show up and do what you can do in that 5 minutes, hour, 12 hours, 24 hours, day, week, 2 weeks, month, year, etc. So, but it only starts in the next 5 minutes. That's all you got.
It's true.
Yeah. I'm gonna go sports, because anytime I hear comeback, I think of sports. Given the Last Dance, I will say MJ's comeback is not one of the greats. He never should have come back. Anybody want to disagree with me on that? He should have just let it. He should have hung it up. No, but I think about football games. I'm in the South. SEC football is huge, and in college football in particular, I've noticed that, and I should say NFL too. The football comeback is really an interesting thing, because it's this principle in action, which is you've got to just start making plays, right? And you don't necessarily have to, everybody wants to see the 50-yard pass, but very often, and this is what I remember, especially like a Tom Brady and a lot of great college football quarterbacks, like, we're going to get 5 yards, and then we're going to run for 4, and then we're going to get a first down, and then we're going to throw 10 more. And it's just like that. You have practiced, to use Jeff's analogy, you've practiced and practiced and practiced. And then when the moment comes, what you're doing is actually just going through those motions that you've trained on. So I know that's not like a specific story, but really to me, watching, and when you watch it, you can start to see it, right? And if you've ever seen a great comeback in sports, you start to see like, oh, they made a play, and then they made another play, and they made another play, and they made another play. And there's like this momentum that builds. And I think for me, that's been the comebacks that I've experienced in my life have been, number one, like we've been saying, you just keep going. Like I just get out of bed one day. And that was my 1% for the day. I got out of bed. And then on day 2, I get out of bed and I do one thing. Mm-hmm. And then pretty soon you feel like, whoa, I'm starting to get a little momentum here. And so that's the encouragement. I think that sports principle applies in life too.
Can I jump back in for a quick sec, Marissa?
Sure.
So I think the notion of comeback is to have the focus of mind to do what is good and effective at all times. At all times, it's what's good and effective in a moment when you feel like you're down, right? So it's the same principle, and that takes steely resolve, right? It takes something to say, okay, to Joel's point on sports field. Well, when you're down 3 touchdowns, you've got it in your head you can't be effective anymore. Like you're like, okay, we can't be effective anymore. We're down 3 touchdowns. It's the third quarter. But what good players do is say, no, I'm still good. And so this next play, I'm going to do what makes me good. And then you do the next play that makes you good. It's just the same. It's the same approach. It's the same rigor. It's the same analytic. It's the same algorithm. It's the same whatever. It's just that what's happening is you're doing it at a time when like you're questioning yourself. It's a fog of war. You're doubting that's possible again. And that's what leads it to feel different than it is when you're like up 3 touchdowns and still trying to do the right thing. The next play.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I'm going to share a bit of me personally because
all right.
Right.
It's a red letter day. This is awesome.
Every once in a while. But yeah, no. When I was in college, again, I love reading. I love school. I've always loved it. And, got to college, was just excited to be away from home. And I liked, the college experience too. But come, the end of sophomore year, I realized a bit more about who I am. And I realized I had no clue what I wanted to do in life. I knew a little bit about who I was, but I had no clue about the future. And it became paralyzing. And I realized that I couldn't just keep going through the motions anymore. And I needed something new. I didn't know what it was, but I needed something new. And so I left school and I didn't make a commitment to come back. I was just like, God, if you got something for me, I guess you'll send me back. But I got to figure something else out. And so I left school and the dorm and all that I knew. And I ended up working in this environmental program, AmeriCorps, shout out to Southeast Waters AmeriCorps in Atlanta. And we were a group of young people that we were doing all kinds of crazy environmental work. That's not crazy. But for me, it was something totally outside of my comfort zone. We were digging ditches and rerouting streams and working in swamps in Florida. And if anybody knows me, I love a book. And I love inside. I love to be sort of in enclosed quarters. But that time, and I spent a year doing that with folks from all around the country. And everybody was, I guess kind of searching. And outside of my typical schedule, I was able to do a considerably long kind of fasting and praying season. And I knew, all right, God, I'm probably not going to dig ditches forever. But if you don't come meet me somehow, I'm really not going to know what to do. And that period of time was the most uncomfortable thing for me. I ended up in an apartment where I had like 4 roommates, one guy, Kevin, hey, and then like a bunch of girls. And we were all kind of, doing this thing for a year. And it was in that time, the continual prayer, continual seeking, continual searching, that I met God. I met my relationship with God in this new way. And I really got a sense of purpose. Again, I started taking inventory more of who I am and what moves me and sort of what gifts and talents I might have. And when I got some clarity about that and really saw that, I'm a builder, and I'm passionate about building stuff with God, and I'm a creative too, and so I love building creative things with God. I got some clarity about direction and realized, what I loved at the time and where I wanted to go. And because I saw that, I was able to go back to school, and I was able to finish up, and I attended every class from then on out, which had not been the case before. And I was able to get on the path that has actually led me here. So anyway, I'm sharing that because that was my version of a breakdown. And I was kind of a black sheep for a while because, who doesn't go to school and finish in 4 years? Who doesn't do whatever? But when I met God and God met me and I met my purpose, I was able to have a comeback. Now that's a bit of an extreme. It's not for everybody, but I'm telling you, it piggybacks actually off of what you said, John, because I think if you can get a sense of what you can hold on to and kind of know that you can leave your sort of everyday things that you're used to, but you can sort of hold on to something, and that thing is usually God, at least for me. You can hold on to that core. You can leave your sort of normal everyday situation, and you can still get to have a comeback. So to all of you out there who feel like after this thing, your life has crashed in, you don't know where to go, you might not be able to go back to where you were before, and you might need to reinvent. Take heart.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God who was with you before Corona will show you clarity and direction now, and you can definitely have a comeback.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Wow. So we could do an entire show. In fact, we could do a week of shows on Marissa's personal story on this topic. Seriously, we could dive in deep on that, and I would love to. But it is
today, folks, not today.
Not well. Yeah, that's a beautiful embodiment. And look, I have several parallel experiences in my life, for sure, which I tell you about. But you have to buy this book that's coming out in July. American Awakening. Day Principles.
Marina was ready with that.
Yeah. So I'd love to tell you, but I don't want to give away it's like spoiler alert and all that. But anyway, no, I mean the principles you're speaking to, I think are ones that are what's wonderful about them is they're intensely personal to you and universal at the same time.
That's right.
And that is awesome. So thank you so much for sharing in that. And honestly, I would love to go a lot longer on that. However, we've got some musicians awaiting us in the Nashville area. JJ Heller, who we're very excited about hearing from. Amazing. And before that, you've got a key movie clip of the day to share with us, either you or Jeff, on this topic, sorta?
Yes, I think so. Jeff, you got that?
Yes. All right. Like usual, you're just coming through clutch, picking the 10 out of 10 movies. You haven't picked any 8 or 9 movies in a long time. You're just picking the killer movies. So, yes, this one doesn't need much introduction just because it's killer. So, without further ado, a clip from The Karate Kid.
Win or lose, doesn't matter. Fight hard. I have a present for you. You have taught me a very important lesson, Xiao Zhui. Life will knock us down, but we can choose, matter or not, to get back up.
There's only one answer.
Jack.
Get back up.
Yeah, I forgot how young Jaden Smith was in that movie.
Yeah, right.
Yes, just get back on. I love that.
Get back up, stand up, show up, all that sort of thing. All right. God's got you. God loves you. He wants to bring you through this. You were made for the challenges you're feel like you're mired in today. And you've got a bright future and a happy ending. Ultimately, at the end of all days, that's what happens. And we're here to remind you of that. Folks around the world, we love you. We're here for you. We're here to tell you, get back up. All right, we're going to kick it over to Dan Hazeltine and JJ Heller. Great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Hello from Nashville. Karate Kid. What I remember from the 80s is just wondering how many kids were, painting decks or painting fences, sanding decks, mopping cars. Like parents got away with some pretty serious stuff back then. They're like, hey, if you want to learn karate, all you got to do is do your chores. So
A crane kick.
Yeah. We have just a great guest again today on the show. We're every day I'm pretty excited about who we get to bring on. JJ Heller and her husband David, they've been making music together for about 17 years, probably more than that now, really. And they have 10 studio albums out and a Christmas EP. She's really kind of been able to get her music out to a lot of people. Some of the statistics, which these kind of matter, they kind of don't, but 22 million YouTube plays, 188 million songs streamed. So that's a lot. And what I kind of honed in on was that also she's just incredibly generous. She's put out a lot of these lullabies and has offered those lullabies to different families and children's hospitals. Over 100,000 albums kind of given away to help folks in the midst of trials and illnesses. And that's just a huge thing. JJ has recently launched a new podcast, which is fantastic. It's called Instrumental with JJ Heller. And I think you can just find it wherever you would go to find podcasts. But it's just, again, my privilege to introduce and welcome JJ Heller and David to the show. How are you guys doing?
Wow, we're feeling very flattered at the moment.
Oh, well, good. So I usually like to start by just asking, how are you guys holding up? It's been, this is a crazy time for artists. We all know that, it's been anxiety producing for many. It's been paralyzing for some. And for others, it's been just an incredible wave of creative energy and inspiration. What has this season been like for you guys? How are you holding up?
Well, I think we're in a really fortunate place where about 2 years ago, we started really pulling back from touring and just to be home more with our two girls, Lucy and Nora. So in terms of like touring and stuff, we weren't really planning on playing very many shows this year anyway. So that wasn't too difficult for us. And it's been super fun to just be able to work on the podcast, which like Dave is kind of obsessed with podcasts. So this is like his dream come true to make our own.
That and we work out of our home, so like the podcast is produced here, we songwrite here. Being in quarantine, we have so far tracked 3 vocal passes or 3 different songs, like the vocal takes for those songs that either have released or will release. Those have been tracked in our closet at home. So
yeah, I like pin the lyrics to like my sweaters that are hanging.
We managed to remain very productive, and we're grateful for high-speed internet and social media to allow us to keep sending our contribution of art out into the world.
Well, that's important. Yeah.
I mean, I think though, like on a more emotional level, it's been a challenge because our 2 girls, they're in 5th grade and 2nd grade, and so to just be in charge of their education from home has been a lot for me. And the school that they go to, like none of the work has been mandatory or like submitted for grades. It's all been like suggested, but it's honestly been like a challenge for me because I refer to myself as a recovering perfectionist. So everything that I set my mind to do, I want it to be like top notch, and I'm just not a good teacher. And so like to be in charge of homeschool on top of all the other things like music stuff and mom stuff and wife stuff and friend stuff, it's been a challenge because I know that I can't do really well at all of those things. And so it's just been like a daily request from God for grace. Like, help me learn how to just be okay with doing my best and like make peace with the fact that like I can't do it all really well, and that's okay.
Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of postings on the internet from people saying that, well, we started out, we're going to finish 5th grade or 6th grade, and it's amazing. They graduated in a day. All these parents kind of basically saying, yeah, we did our best, but this is not for us. Hopefully at the end of this, what we'll come away with is a bit more of an appreciation for our educators in the world. And even to the point of, some of the way that we look at the economy can flip a little bit, and we can take care of our teachers and our caregivers a little bit more. Because I think we're all realizing that the value that we've somehow missed in their existence in the world and what they've done for our own kids. Somehow we've not placed the right amount of value on that, but we're all learning. Yeah, so I think that's great. Yeah. So you guys,
for teachers.
Yes, for real.
You are amazing.
So I am curious to know. One of the things that I recognize from you guys is that you've kind of stepped away from the album making process, and you've been doing more of this, like putting out a song the first Friday of every month?
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
And so, what has that been like that changes the way a person thinks about an album. It changes the way they think about writing. How has that changed for you guys?
Yeah. You want to speak to that, Dave?
Sure. We found ourselves about 3 years ago. We'd made a Christmas record, and it was a fun process, and Christmas season was over, and we were looking at our garage, and it was still full of CDs. And parts of it are still full of CDs. And we decided we didn't want to make more CDs, but we wanted to keep making music. And as that year unfolded, one organization asked us to write a theme song for them for their year, and we wrote that song. And then World Vision approached us and asked us to write or to record a version of This Little Light of Mine for an internal video that they were putting out. But we thought, hey, if we own this song, like, it could be used in different capacities. But it was kind of the spark that we needed to begin walking down that road of just these monthly releases. And as we have been doing that for over 3 years now, JJ's listenership online with the growth of streaming has grown 1,000%,
wow,
which is really incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so what we have decided we as artists are the best at is creating art and not necessarily promoting it. I mean, we try to promote it as much as we can, but we have just committed to creating as often and as frequently as we can, and try to make the best thing that we can every month. And if somebody doesn't like it this month, maybe they'll like what we put out next month. And we've learned how to collaborate with great songwriters and producers and graphic designers. And so, yeah, we just feel like it's elevated the content that we've been creating over these past few years. But I will say we're working on 2 additional albums as well, and they are in various forms of completion. But next year, in addition to these monthly singles, we're going to also try to roll out those 2 records as well. So,
but not on CD, right? Only on cassette.
That's correct. No
cassette
more
tape.
CDs.
So you see, kids, cassette tapes are the little, anyway.
That's it.
Good.
I will say, we were looking at the pile of CDs that we still have in our garage, and actually today we started a sale for the weekend we're selling 2 CDs for $2 right now.
Nice.
Get them out.
Yeah, so like
Good.
postage is actually more expensive than the music for this sale this time. It's just like, please take our CDs.
Brilliant. Well, they're good for a lot of. Even if you don't enjoy the music, there are different things you can do with a compact disc. They make incredible coasters. There's all sorts of things we all know.
Earrings,
hey,
maybe?
Rings,
rings,
like
there's a lot. Would you guys be interested? We would love to hear you play some music today.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
Okay. Well, gosh, probably a month ago now, like right when
things were shutting down.
Yeah, things were shutting down. I was just feeling really overwhelmed by everything. And like I've had a history with struggling with anxiety. So that's kind of like where my mind goes. I go to like worst case scenario. And so I happened to be watching a church service online that a friend of mine was playing music for. So I tuned in, and then I stayed for the message, and the message was on the Lord's Prayer. And it was just pointed out that, like, you know, before Jesus instructs us how to pray, there's this verse that says that even before we pray anything, that God already knows what we're going to ask him. And I just found that to be so comforting, just this idea that God already knows, like, how all of this is going to unfold. Because I think the hardest part about COVID-19 is like all the uncertainty. I found myself wishing that there was just a day on the calendar that we could point to and say, we just got to make it to here, and then everything's going to be fine. But that's not the case. So we just have to like make peace with not knowing ourselves, but trusting that God does, and that he's going to take care of us. So I started writing a song right after I finished watching that message, and then the next day or so, Dave and I finished it out with another songwriter, and it's called You Already Know. Everything around me seems uncertain, and my weary heart can't take much more surprise. I wish there was a point on the horizon, something I could see with my own eyes. I need to tell you that I'm scared, feel completely unprepared, and nothing's what it was 2 weeks ago. But you already know. You already know everything I'm scared of, everything I hope. You hold my tomorrow, and all tomorrow holds. You already know. I can't seem to find the easy answers. Someday I hope the suffering makes sense. I just need to know that you are with me, even if you keep me in suspense. We talk so much these days because I have so much to say. You stay and listen to me closely, even though you already You go behind me. Wherever I'm going, you're already there. You already know. You already know. Everything I'm scared of, everything I hope. You are my tomorrow, and all tomorrow holds. You already know.
Yeah. So good.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Hey,
Love it.
JJ, we talk a lot about the Lord's Prayer in our daily show. For probably all the obvious reasons, but there's a special quality of it and its dailiness, at least for me, and I think no doubt a lot of our teammates. But that take on it is a really special take. The way you frame that and that song coming out of it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
And on a more pedestrian note, I just want to say, is there any chance that you are in the West Haven neighborhood of Franklin right now?
Maybe
That's
that
right.
general area.
Yeah, I sort of sense that vibe coming off the space and some people on the ground there. And some people on the ground there in the neighborhood who are on our team clued us in you might be there. Our friend Nancy and David French, who I spent a lot of time with, spent a lot of time hanging out in the West Haven neighborhood. So we're texting back and forth about whether you're there or not. And
They're sweet people.
Yes. West Haven. I'm in the other side of Franklin. So yeah. I'm in a basement somewhere underneath some creek near a van. Anyway, yeah. But so I'm curious to know, I wanted you to just take a quick minute and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your podcast, because I feel like that's a great it's a great outlet. It's really it's just something I think people would be interested in hearing about. So give us a quick, here's what we're doing on the podcast.
I want to talk about.
Okay, Dave's so excited about this.
This is like my dream come true. Okay, so I've been trying to get JJ to have a podcast for several years now, and the problem is that JJ actually is a bit of an introvert and isn't very talkative most of the time. And so we had to come up with a concept where we got the guests who come on the show to do most of the talking, and then JJ can kind of be a part of it by proxy. But the general concept was kind of inspired by one of my favorite Christopher Nolan films that's called Memento. Yeah. And in that film, the whole premise is that it starts, the very beginning of the film is the end of the timeline. And with every scene, you incrementally work back you work your way backwards in time. And so the end of the following scene is essentially the beginning of the scene that came before it. And that kind of sounds confusing, but it's really amazing. So watch Memento.
Yeah, and it's Christopher Nolan,
that's
so
right.
It has to be confusing.
He loves playing with time. So
he tells the story backwards.
Yes. So we were trying to figure out how to do that in podcast form, and we came up with the idea of having a guest come on, and they tell their story to us in 3 acts. They tell us how things began, what happened in the middle, if there was a great peak or a deep valley, and where they are now because of those 2 moments. But then in the edit, we start with where they are now, and then we work our way to act 2, and every show ends with whatever that inciting incident was, that thing that if you remove that from their story, they wouldn't be who they are today. So we've called the podcast Instrumental, and season 1 is going to be 14 episodes. And this past Monday was the opening week of the show, and we released 3 episodes, so you can hear JJ's story and our friend Mark Schultz, and Dan, our mutual friend Mitch Dane, tells his story, which is unbelievable. And we have incredible guests lined up, mostly musicians that we've worked with either in the studio or on the road who are sharing their stories. And we're already working on season 2 right now, interviewing a bunch of people from outside of music as well.
And I think the whole show is just kind of a reminder that every moment matters, because you never know which is the moment that's going to change the course of your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like maybe we're all in one right now, and we just don't know it yet. I think that's beautiful, especially given our topic today for discussion and the idea that we were talking all about comebacks. That's such a huge that plays into it so well, that you kind of have to have that the darker, challenging experiences in order to create the comebacks. But
that's right.
But it's always hard to go in be in the middle of. But would you guys be interested in playing another song for us?
Sure.
Yes.
We'd love to hear one more.
When our girls were babies, we started to write a whole bunch of lullabies, and we released that album, and just kind of as like a side project, a little bit of an afterthought. And over the years, we started realizing that was the top streamed album was this like simple album of lullabies. And I think after hearing story after story of how God has used these simple songs to bring healing and hope to people, we've kind of realized like, oh, I think maybe this is a thing that we should focus on. And it's been so fun to kind of carve out that niche, and to write a bunch of lullabies. And I think the thing that I realized recently about them is they're not just for kids. I think that like there is still a small child inside all of us that is longing to be reminded that everything's going to be okay, that there's still beauty in the world. And so I think no matter how old we are, I think that sometimes we all could benefit from listening to a lullaby.
Yeah.
So this is a song that we wrote with our friend Andy Gullahorn, and it's a kind of benediction over our children.
So we'll sing it over everybody today.
That's right.
Great. Thank you.
Trees are made for climbing, days are made for sun, puddles are for jumping, fields are made to run, stars are made for counting, and for wishes coming true. Sleep is made for dreaming, and I have dreams for you. May you never lose the wonder in your soul. May you always have a blanket for the cold. May the living light inside you be the compass as you go. May you always know you have my hand to hold. Stones are made for skipping, stories made to tell. Life is made for living. I pray you live it well. Learning comes from trying, so don't be afraid to lose. Songs are made for singing. I'll sing this one for you. May you never lose the wonder in your soul. May you always have a blanket for the cold. May the living light inside you be the compass as you go. May you always know you have my hand. Okay, this is where there's like a strings solo, but I can't play that part. So Maybe we can
We'll just move straight
Yeah,
to
okay.
verse 3.
Here we go. May the good Lord bless and keep you, fill you with his peace. His face will shine upon you, even as you sleep. Every day you're changing, sometimes I wish it wasn't true. Hearts are made for giving, I've given mine to you. May you never lose the wonder in your soul. May you always have a blanket for the cold. May the living light inside you be the compass as you go. May you always know you have my hands on. May you always know you have my hands on.
Beautiful.
Wow.
So good.
So touching.
Something we all needed today. So that was gorgeous. Thank you,
You all ready
JJ
to
and
fall
David.
asleep now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go take a nap after this. It's great. Good.
Ready to go hug my kids. Wow.
I know. Yeah. Well, we have been just thank you so much for giving us the gift of being on the show with us today. It's been great to have you. Great to hear that you've been able to stay creative and inspired. We all look forward to hearing more from you guys, and we'll just keep our ear to the ground to hear for that that song on the first Friday. So, yes, is that what it's? Yeah. Okay, ear to the grindstone. Good. Yeah. All of these phrases are hard to remember where they go together. Let's just mix some metaphors. Anyway, it's so good to have you guys. I'm going to kick it back now to John, back in New England.
JJ and Dave, thank you so much. That was so touching, so on point, and so encouraging. You're right. We are all children someplace inside, and our Heavenly Father never lose sight of that, and keeps us in that special place of and desires us in that special place of complete reliance on Him. So for you to speak in that sort of special, I hope this doesn't come out the wrong way, but priestly way to all of us, that spirit of benediction, that wish that good dreams will be with all of us. Thank you so much for offering that to us. Hey, everybody out there, remember, God already knows what your prayers are, as JJ and Dave told us. We wish you all good dreams from now to tomorrow. Good dreams when you're sleeping. When you're awake, do what you got to do, of course. From here to tomorrow, we wish you all the best. God bless you, and keep fighting the good fight. Thanks for being with us.